Season 3 of The Pass is here. I know it's long overdue. We have a new intro. We still got the same content. Well, actually, it's a little bit of new content because there's new things going on in 2019. So buckle up. We got a lot of things to talk about on The Pass.
What's up, y'all? What's going on? Episode 262 of The Pass is here. I'm your host, BT. I am going to be 100% honest. This is going to be a very different show for multiple reasons. One, the locale that I chose is not one of my norms, but hey, it happens. Two, I'm still kind of getting comfortable with using my Samsung Meteor mic. And three, and most of all, I don't have a way of hearing how I sound because I didn't bring any headphones. All of the essentials that I would normally have based on my recording and my setup, I don't have, so I'm kind of just running it as an improv, so it's going to be a little different. Those of you who are, I'm just kind of delayed. I can tell I'm still learning, but if you are watching me on Instagram Live, welcome aboard. Folks will slowly start coming in, and we'll just kind of let it be what it is. But we are on episode 262. As the title says, we are going to talk about the keynote. I'm going to get to that in a bit, but the main gist that I did want to talk about, there's a lot that has gone on. We have football in the works. We are on week 5. Before we go into week 5, week 4 was a little wonky, only because a lot of teams won that should have won. A lot of teams lost that shouldn't have lost. One of those being Dallas. Dallas losing their game against New Orleans was kind of a big shocker for me. And Baltimore not being able to pull off the win against Kansas City was one that I was shocked by. So as you can see by my facial expression, if you saw, I'm a little confused, but hey, it happens. But I was 8-6 last week. Overall, my record is 27-6-1. So we're going to see if week 5 I can get it together. So without any further ado, we're going to go ahead and get our picks going. And my bad if I'm like still kind of adjusting because I'm trying to get the right setting and still not have y'all see where or how I'm recording, but it's working. So I'm as with anything in life, you learn to make it work. So going into our matchups, Arizona against Cincinnati, both teams coming off of losses. I'm going to take Arizona for that game. Buffalo at Tennessee. Chicago at Oakland, going to be a big match because this will be the first time Khalil Mack is playing against his old team. Oakland hasn't shown me enough yet to really pick them, so I'm picking Chicago for that game. Tampa Bay and New Orleans. New Orleans coming off of a loss, still without Drew Brees. Teddy Bridgewater's looked pretty good so far, but it's not the same. So we're going to go ahead. I'm going to pick Tampa Bay for that one. Might be a shocker, especially with not being certain of how Jameis Winston is going to play. Minnesota at New York of the Giants. DJ Mr. Jones will be in the building. What's going on, Brandon? How you feeling, man? I'm going to pick the Giants for that one, even with there being an uncertainty about Kirk Cousins. Jets at Philly might surprise people. I'm actually going to pick, well, not really a shocker because they've been looking pretty good. So I'm going to pick Philadelphia for that match. Baltimore at Pittsburgh, always a rivalry game. It's not really a huge rivalry, especially since Pittsburgh is playing without none of their big three from the last time they played, and Baltimore's kind of been in their consistent trend. So I'm going to pick Baltimore for that matchup. New England at Washington. Unless something crazy happens, I'm picking New England. I don't know why it was talked about on the show, but I'm kind of going to be an early projector in saying that I feel like New England might. They're either going to go 14-2, 15-1, or 16-0. This is my bold, blind prediction, but that's just kind of how I'm looking at it right now. Jacksonville at Carolina. I don't believe Ramsey is playing. There's still talks about where he's going to go or what team he's looking to play for. I'm going to pick Carolina for that game. Kyle Allen has looked pretty good so far. Atlanta at Houston. Coming off of losing to, I know they lost to Carolina a couple weeks back. For this matchup, I'm going to actually take Atlanta. I'm trying to get them another chance. If they lose this one, then we know how it goes. Denver at the Chargers. Going to take Denver for that one. Chargers haven't really shown me a lot yet to really get on their high horse, but that's just my personal view. Green Bay at Dallas. Some may look at this and call it game of the week. I will pick Green Bay for that matchup. The late night game, Colts at Chiefs. Chiefs coming off of a big loss, and Colts also coming off of a big loss. I'm going to pick the Colts for that one. And finally, Monday night game, Cleveland at San Francisco. Unless something weird happens, I'm going to pick San Francisco for that game. So those are the picks. We know how it goes. See if we can do better than 8-6. And that's just where we're at. And sticking to football, it looks as though Vontaze Burfict is going to be out for the remainder of the season, or he's been suspended for the remainder of the season. The story that I'm sharing is kind of an add-on to that story. The initial story, well, this one actually does address that he's suspended for the remainder of the season. He has had a very target-based season with how he's been tackling or hitting other players, and the NFL just kind of stepped in and put their foot down. He was suspended for the remaining 12 games, and it is the longest suspension for an on-field action. It was due to repeated violations of unnecessary roughness, and it was precipitated by a helmet-to-helmet hit on tight end Jack Doyle back on Sunday. Now, I don't have it on this article. I'm not going to read this article A to Z because it's really not much else to it, but it was confirmed that there was also another play that he did cause a heavy amount of contact to a player, but they didn't give a penalty for it, and I guess it wasn't noticed during game, so they brought it to attention after the fact. So that also is something that they kind of have as leverage as well. Sticking with football, but we're going to college, and I saw this article, and I want to make sure that I did talk about it before it got too hot into the upcoming week. Clemson did almost make themselves not playoff bowl eligible this year. They took a very ugly win against UNC. They beat them 21-20, and I mean, the best way you can put it, it was predominantly on just a last second play that just worked in Clemson's favor. So Clemson is still undefeated. Right now, it's slated to kind of pretty much be Clemson and Alabama, all things leading up to that. So unless something strange or odd comes up, I believe Alabama has one of their Powerpuff games this week, as they always do. And I know I'm always bad about saying that about Alabama, but it's just what it is. At least, and from looking at the schedule, it looks like this might be their bye week, so they may not be playing this week. But that's kind of where we're at with that. So I wasn't sure how I was going to do this, but I'm going to do it. We are early on, and this is probably going to be a good amount of the podcast. But I'm gonna I have another topic that is also going to take up quite a bit of time. We're about a few weeks away from the NBA regular season starting. I didn't do it much last season, but I'm gonna do it this year, or for the NFL. But I'm gonna try to do so for the sake. What's up, Angie? How you feeling? For the sake of the conversation, give me a sec, y'all. I'm gonna multitask and walk, talk, and chew gum. But basically, I will say this: this is gonna be a long road for a lot of NBA teams. Everyone's kind of already on the LeBron wagon. They think LeBron's gonna be the team to beat. I'm going to be 100% honest. the Lakers are a good team, but they're not really my eye-opening team. And I'm going to try to chip at this as best as I can without being too obvious. So we're gonna kind of go through the obvious ones, and then we'll get into the non obvious. So right now, Atlanta, Vince is back. This will be his final season. He's already made that clear. This is kind of a rebuilding year, and hopefully they have a good season. That's the best I got. Boston, this is going to be year one following Kyrie welcoming in Kemba. Kemba's got a lot of pressure on him for this season, and that's just the nicest way of putting it. Brooklyn, exact opposite. D'Angelo's gone, welcoming Kyrie, and also Durant, who's not going to be playing this year. If they're smart, they're not going to play him at all this year. They're going to let him heal up and then just come back for either the playoffs or for next season. They also have DeAndre Jordan, which would be an even bigger pickup, and that's just kind of what that is. Looking at Charlotte, you're coming in now following from the Charlotte has a very interesting scenario because now they put Terry Rozier in a very weird position with this team. I don't know what Charlotte's going to do because now the problem becomes having a bunch of players play the same position. You said yes, he does. I want to know what was that referencing to, Ange. Whenever you can send it, you can either text it or you can send it here. Doesn't matter. Chicago, young team, not much to say. Cleveland, young team, not much to say. Dallas, this is going to be a unique year because you're looking at life following Dirk as well as life following. You have now the ball is in Porzingis. Porzingis has muscled up as well as Luka Doncic will be in year 2. So we're going to see what they have to offer the franchise. I'm not going to do all these teams because it's just not necessary. Denver, obviously, playoff bound last year. Wondering how they're going to do again this year. They should make the playoffs unless something crazy happens. Golden State, and this is what I'm going to say because this will probably be the nicest and cleanest statement to make about the teams. On the East, it's an open run. It's not Toronto's year. Let's put that on the back burner because even though they're defending champs, you pretty much lost one of the potentially high end role stars in the NBA to the Clippers. On the West, Golden State lost Durant, one of the best scorers in the NBA. He wasn't going to be playing this year anyway. He already kind of looked like he was disconnected with the team before the season started. And you bring in D'Angelo Russell, you bring in a lot of other role players. Iguodala's gone, Sean Livingston's gone. Sean Livingston retired rather. And you're left with this team, which is a good team. It's still like they can still win 70 games and it wouldn't be, or not 70. They could still win 50 to 60 games and it wouldn't be a surprise. So I still look at them as like the high end team. If I was to look at teams right now on both sides, East and West, let's just call a spade a spade. West, I would say Portland, San Antonio, because you still have the Rose in there. Not Milwaukee. The Clippers, the Lakers. The Lakers should make the playoffs this year, barring injuries. And that's the other thing. The Lakers are going to be a very unique question mark because you need a healthy Davis and a healthy LeBron for the duration of the season. Not, okay, they're going to play, we'll say for the conversation, they play 60 games apiece. 60 games apiece might be okay, but it's not going to be enough for the sake of the season and for the long-term process. And that's what, as fans, it has to be looked at. The Clippers, we already know what time it is. Hey, Christina, what's going on? The Clippers brought in 2 big guys. They brought in Paul George and obviously Kawhi. A lot of the role players have been involved. So there's that factor. But it's not really the same lineup, so it's still a question mark on what's to come. New York is not really going to make any noise. OKC is going to be different. Houston is another team in the West to look out for. So Houston, I would say Houston, Clippers, Lakers, Portland, Golden State, and then it's the field. I won't even say Denver because Denver doesn't really. It's kind of like a up in the air thing. Dallas, if they make the playoffs, I'd be shocked, but it's still early. I mean, obviously the season hasn't started, so that's my statement for that. East wise, I'm gonna say Boston, Brooklyn, Milwaukee. Milwaukee was one series away from the finals. Like, let's remember that. Let's keep that in mind. Pacers be on the lookout. Oladipo should be back, so that'll be a very interesting mix into the conversation. Philadelphia, obviously, we're going to see how Ben Simmons jump a look because we saw what we saw last year, and that's just what it is. And that's kind of and then it's the field. So I would, like I said, I may have mentioned Miami, I may not have. And I'll go ahead and get these two teams out of the way now for preseason preview. New Orleans is going to be a good team. New Orleans is going to make the playoffs. Zion is going to struggle because everyone knows that Zion is coming. So they're going to give their best effort in trying to play Zion. I understand that. I have no knock against it. As far as the Knicks go, RJ Barrett is there, but you have other players in place. Julius Randle, Bobby Portis. Like, those guys are going to be guys to look out for more so on that lineup. So just keep an eye out for this. Like, the season is going to... This usually with the NBA, it's just you gotta let the early part of the season be what it is, and then when the season really gets to that heavy hitting point, like near All-Star time, then that's when you kind of know what time it is. All right, so that's kind of just the ins and outs of the NBA. I'm not really gonna just break down the Magic. There's not much to say. Memphis. Iguodala's gone. Iguodala wants to leave. What's going on, Tim, man? Welcome aboard. Thanks for viewing the pod. And that's kind of it. Now, Portland, like I said, Portland is good regular season, but playoff Portland is where we really need to see them wake up and bring it. So that's my 2% statement, take, overall view, whatever. This story is one that I happen to be thinking about, but it came up as a story only because by looking at other articles, it crossed my mind. Michael Smith has completed a buyout. He's an analyst in the NBA. Well, not in the NBA. He's an analyst with ESPN. He had his own show on SportsCenter a couple of years ago. It didn't stick the way it was expected to. Him and Jamel Hill were kind of like a good collaboration, and Jamel Hill got released, and you kind of saw that left him on his own island because they really didn't have like a, hey, we're going to give you a show to do X, Y, and Z. And that put us to the present point now where they're just kind of figuring it out. And he basically just completed a buyout. His buyout was the same as Jamel's, where he ended up getting a $10 million contract to just take a job elsewhere, and he's actually going to be joining a Hollywood-based startup called Collaboratory. He's not really giving much details on the agreement, which transparently and bluntly speaking, I don't blame him. He's not obligated to. It's no reason or purpose. And that's just kind of what it is. ESPN went through a transition. ESPN got outplayed by a lot of your other bigger platforms with news. You had Fox, you got CNN, you have Bleacher Report, you have FootMob, you have multiple ways of getting the news. ESPN's statement, and I've talked about this on the show numerous times, and I'm going to bring it up again because it needs to be said. Their term or their reference is the worldwide leader in sports. Okay. You can't be the worldwide leader in sports when you're not breaking news as quick as expected. So that kind of put them at a back burner and forced their hand and had to make them move differently. And I understand all of those factors. But you have to, in some way, focus on what's important. And that's just kind of what it is. So I mean, it's one of those things, like, as long as ESPN is doing their best to like try to keep listeners or keep viewers, then they're gonna do it the best way possible. And now, because things have switched up a little bit, you're more focused on, we're in a podcast era. Obviously, I'm doing a podcast. So it's, what can I do to maintain or keep the attention of the listener or of the viewer? And if the answer is nothing, then they're gone. Most people want information rapid and immediate. That's what makes, I've even talked about this from a personal standpoint with my podcast. Some podcasters, okay, and Tim, I'm gonna add to that. Local news benefits because it is gonna give you kind of like that compressed, because now we want everything immediate. So it's like, if I'm watching the news and getting my local news is what's going on in my said neighborhood, and I prefer to watch that form of news, and they've already given me what's going on in sports, not just for my local sports, but also worldwide sports, what do I need ESPN for? And that's kind of what has hurt ESPN a little bit, is that factor, as well as, like I mentioned earlier, like your top platforms, like the Bleacher Reports, I don't even want to use, Bleacher Report is kind of like the new TMZ, but it's a more reliable source of sports, if that's a good way to put it. So that's just that take, or that overall perspective of that. We're going to jump into stuff, and I'm going to give stuff as much time as I can. But before I do, because I want to make sure I don't miss anything that I have written, I've already talked about week 5, Twitch, so we're going to talk on the logo. Clemson, NBA prediction. So first part of stuff, because I'm going to go ahead and talk about it, and I'm going to go ahead and let y'all into my life for a second. So this will be kind of a different transition, but a very smooth discussion. This week has been a different week. And the reason I say that is because it's my first week back in school. And I've not been in school in over, 14 years. Because when I got my degree, it was in 2005. So in that time period, obviously school has changed, which is no surprise, no big deal. It's really it's an in-class, but more online-based class. So I have to adjust to that. But it's also the outer parts of school that I'm adjusting to. And it's made it more challenging, but more worthwhile in the end. Here's what I mean by saying that. My first day in class, I'm in class, I'm kind of trying to feel out the vibe, feel out the room, feel out everything, and figure out what I'm doing here and all that type of stuff. And in the process of the transition, I'm hearing conversations and I'm hearing everybody trying to make jokes, and I'm like, look, I'm here for school, I'm here to get my information, and I'm here to go. And I had to kind of feel out that process. But after the first day, I was like, okay, we in here, we're gonna do this. My other class for programming hasn't been too bad, but it's just learning programming all over again and really getting back into computers. Because people who aren't in your field or in your scope don't understand your scope. And that's something that I'm going to leave as part of the passive message, but I'm going to talk about a little bit of it now. There are going to be conversations that are had around you that you're going to be all a part of and all engulfed and like willing to listen and be like open a sponge about. And some of it you're really just not going to be interested in because it's not something that interests you. A prime example of this was yesterday at my current job. I was talking, before a friend of mine came downstairs and talked to me, I was tired. I was sitting down. I'm just like kind of trying to stay alive and coherent. Yes, I'm doing this on live, but whatever. And I'm just kind of like, man, I'm so ready to go. And I'm so tired and I'm so done. But time progressed and a friend of mine came down and he's into designing. But when we talk, we don't talk primarily about designing. We talk about content. We talk about creating. We talk about visualizing. We talk about planning, branding, everything. And he's been able to help me get a fire lit that I've been trying to like work on. And what was interesting about it was before he talked to me, like I said, slowly going back, just ready to go, can't do it. And oddly enough, after talking to him, I had energy for the rest of the day to get through the day. But then the energy caught me because when I got home, it was like, okay, I need to shut down. And yesterday leading into today might have been the longest amount of sleep I've gotten in quite some time. Like I was literally asleep by about 5:30, almost 6 o'clock in the evening, and didn't wake up until about 2:30, 3 o'clock in the morning. When I woke up, I was like, yeah, I'm about to go. I'm not going anywhere. I'm going to go ahead and just lay here and relax for a minute, which I did. And then I went right back to sleep and finished up truly sleeping and then kind of getting my morning started. And it helped me be more rejuvenated because I personally hadn't gotten the recharge that I need. And it happens to us. It happens to the best of us and the worst of us. So I know that's like a weird switch and transition of conversation, but I wanted to talk about that because it is like a new experience. So I'm not going to make this a weekly school thing, but I wanted to at least talk about my first experience of going back to school, as well as letting people know if you have the ability and are willing to do something better, to do something period to better yourself, by all means do it. Because if you don't do it now, you never will. Might have snuck a past message in there early, but it's okay if we did. It's not a big deal. Sticking to stuff or running back into stuff in a very weird manner. Twitch did a rebrand, and I love the rebrand. Being a designer and being a creator, as I call it, because that was something that I told someone early on this year, and that's something that I've accepted. I'm a content creator. I love others who create. I don't care what type of creation you're doing, if it's photography, if it's blogging, if it's podcasting, if it's graphic or web design, if it is networking, if it is social media enthusiasts, I'm all for creating. But I'm also for it when you're actually willing and open to doing it. But that's just a ramble of a rant. I love seeing brands or companies switch up their design. A friend of mine, she actually did her rebrand for her business. And when I saw the new logo, I was like, this is pretty dope. It's pretty nice. And that's oddly enough, the name of her business is Dope by Design. So check her out if you're not already. Social plug. I'll make sure I mark that as a reminder. But Twitch has decided to make a rebrand, which is their first rebrand in, I think, quite a few years. Twitch is a media giant with a size that's almost impossible to fathom. Since they're now owned by Amazon, the service has been built on the back of streamers, traditionally people playing video games while talking about their experience through increasingly more diverse content, including cooking and talk shows. The little idea has blossomed into a network with 50,000 channels at any given moment, with more than 1 million people watching every second, powered by nearly 4 million people who broadcast themselves every month. Now Twitch is launching a bold, updated brand to highlight that community. The company built a new brand system grounded with several logos that live on an identity spectrum. At one end, it's Twitch, the pixely purple corporation, with its familiar blocky look that reminds us of its video game roots. And in the middle is Twitch blended with the colors of any individual streamer. And at the far end, it's Twitch as an ever-changing rainbow, the brand and the users all in one. The new brand will launch with a major advertising campaign, the first in Twitch's history. The tagline, "You're already one of us." For Twitch, which has grown for 9 years without ever advertising itself, and no doubt facing a new wave of competition from a hungry Microsoft and a handful of similar Chinese startups, it was time. The brand is an attempt at corporate maturation without going too corporate. And they go into more detail about the Twitch style, and they give you like the original look and the new look and things of that sort. Now, all of this is great, But why I like the new look or the new rebrand is because what they've done now is they've said, okay, you know what? Here's what we're doing. We have our staple of what Twitch is, but now let's give people a true taste of what Twitch is about. If you're a Twitch user, you actually can go on their site and it's a lot more, it's gotten a clean feel to it. That's the best way to describe it. Moving through the interface from the website is very clean. Like if you hover over certain streams or certain images, it kind of makes that image stand out. I personally am team dark mode on all devices if I can do it, and it works to its advantage in this case, because if you're using the black background for Twitch and you hover over a streamer's page, you'll see like the purple shadow coming from behind, and it just looks good. It works really well for what Twitch is doing and where Twitch is going. And now with everyone more vocal and more transparent in their community, it makes it even better that Twitch has gone this route. So shout outs to them and props to them for their new look and new style. So I'm loving it. I'm here for it. And I just want to see Twitch continue to grow. I still have my page, and I'm supposed to live stream. Well, I was supposed to live stream in September, but a lot of things happened. So not really going to point the finger or point blame at anyone but myself on that one. Of all the companies, and of course, as you can see by the title, we got another keynote. Now, Microsoft stepped up to the plate and did a keynote. I'm going to start there. All I'm going to say is, yes, Timothy, that's a good point. Technology, before I continue this article, I do want to respond to that. And those who are listening to the podcast, I am on Instagram Live, and I'm going to promote that really briefly because I don't do it enough. Each time I record these shows, I go on Instagram.com/thepastbt, and I upload and record and go from there, trying to get like another way of exposure and more people to check out the shows. If they're not able to listen to the actual podcast, this is kind of like a workaround to that. But all of that being said, yes, technology is moving at a rapid pace. 2019 has shown us that, and 2020 will show us that even more. Companies are trying to go digital, like as we've learned a few years ago. Those of us who have been on let's hold on to our MP3s, let's make our CDs, are being forced, myself included, into the streaming world, which as we really join the streaming world, we realize it's not all that bad. So even something as big as this with Twitch has become like a monster within itself. Like I can remember joining and being a part of Twitch in like 2013 when I first saw it, and looking at it now, especially with Amazon being on board, it looks 10 times different. So I'm loving it. I'm here for it, and I value it a lot. But sticking to our current the subject now with Microsoft. First of all, and I didn't watch the whole keynote. Let me be clear. If I don't catch it. So for me, if I don't catch a keynote live, I try my best to catch the keynote through The Verge in like a 12-minute breakdown or 11-minute breakdown. And the little bit of it that I watched, I was like, this is such a professional. It was a professional and intimate type of keynote because, one, from looking at the crowd, there wasn't a large amount of people there, which kind of shocked me. But also, it was good that it wasn't a lot of people there because you didn't need a whole crowd of folks to watch this event. Two, most of the products that they were promoting or talking about aren't even out yet. They did present their version of the AirPods, Galaxy earbuds. They brought out the Surface earbuds. Now, to put things into perspective, this has nothing to do with what Android is doing or what Samsung is doing, because this is all a separate world. Microsoft is looking at bringing out a phone. that's going to be a unique one in itself. But the products that they did show off, and kind of the main things that stood out from the keynote, they do have the Surface Laptop 3. Let's see, repeating Microsoft is focused on Windows as it was in the past. They're still on the May 29th. Yes, I'm gonna get to that in a second. And I'm sorry, what Tim just posted, I'm reading this, but I forgot I got up still doing a recording. My friend commented saying, I'm hearing Microsoft isn't as focused on Windows as it was in the past. They're still on the May 2019 update to Windows 10. And speaking of that, what's more interesting is they're looking at possibly doing Windows 10X. Not really much big on that. And it's weird because I'm indifferent, because here I am sitting with like 3 Apple devices. So I don't know how to like agree or disagree with it, but I get what they're doing. So yeah. But they did bring the Surface Laptop 3, the Surface Pro 7. They pushed it. It was a keyboard that they kept showing like 100 times. And I was like, if I see this keyboard one more time, they promoted it multiple times to the point where I was like, all right, we got it. You want us to get this keyboard, and it's going to be the greatest thing ever. They promoted the Surface Pro X, the Surface earbuds, which I mentioned. They're looking at the Surface. They have the Surface Neo, the Surface Duo. There was also a press on a stylus that they have that's going to be working in the case of if you want to write, like if you're using Excel, you can write out something on your style, like using the stylus, and it'll come up in the spreadsheet. I think that's cool. I gotta see these items first, because what they did, what got me was they brought out this foldable tablet, and I was like, oh no, not the foldable tablet again. I can't do this again. We've already gone through it with the Samsung foldable. We saw the first one didn't work. Second one looks like it's gonna be here for a couple months and probably be gone in no time, because I don't see the gain of consumers buying that product, the Galaxy Foldable. And I didn't talk about it on the podcast, and I had my reasons, but if I did, it wasn't like, ooh, y'all gotta run out and buy it. So there's that. Then you had the foldable tablet, and you had the foldable phone. The foldable phone is not coming until next year for Microsoft. It's going to be using Android, and that's kind of all I got. I see what Microsoft is trying to do. They're trying to hold the consumer. This is the main focus or the main factors. You want to keep the consumer interested. And there's not really a clear-cut way of doing that sometimes, other than trying to do the best that you can to make what you have work. And that's kind of like my cleanest way of putting it. If y'all see me on live, I'm like randomly adjusting the microphone, so that's why I look kind of weird. But anyway, that's all I have on. I mean, that's like the article gives a little bit of information. I will go in and I will add a marker to also share the link that I found that kind of gives you like the overall view of what they talked about at the keynote. Because watching a full keynote is just inhumane, in my opinion, unless you have. Now let me backtrack. If you're invested in like technology and you're a person who does reviews, perfectly fine, super beneficial, worth the risk reward. But if it's not within those means, or it's not any major gain behind doing it, just get the snippet and then just come back and watch it on your time or when you have opportunity. EA could have possibly been ass of the week for this one. And this might be why I'm more tied towards network and cybersecurity and data breaches and just people's information. Because in the last 3 or 4 years, I've never heard or seen as many data breaches as I've seen in the news until now. EA somehow leaked personal data for FIFA 20 Global Series players. So let's backtrack And let me give the global player side story, and then I'll talk about the article. EA Sports started a esports tournament format that I think other games should kind of follow at some point. Basically, they take your top players in FIFA, put them in a tournament, and they have them play either through they play different matches against each other to get wins and losses, as well as they play in different group stages to get closer and closer to winning the world. Like, it's almost like the EA World Cup in a sense. But it's not just done in one specific country. It's like done worldwide. All I can say is it's a very fun view. Like, the time that I've watched it on Twitch, I've always been impressed because it's a game. Like, I like FIFA to begin with, but I love watching them compete. It's a good form of competition. I'll put it like that. My bad. Didn't mean to pause on y'all. So this story, this is leading up to the registration opening because the game FIFA 20 just came out probably a couple weeks ago. They opened up registration for FIFA 20 Global Series. Those who were trying to register noticed that the sign-up page displayed personal details of players who had already done so. They had saw usernames, email addresses, and dates of birth, among other information. Let's see. Before I get to the absolute farce of that competitive BS, you click on the link, register for verification. You get other people's personal information. This is a new low even for this joke of a company. It seems as though the problem affected high-profile players and professionals as well as anyone who signed up. After reports of the issue emerged, EA took down the page to investigate and said it would provide updates as soon as possible. When Engadget asked EA for comment, it offered same statement it posted on Twitter. We are aware of, and EA Sports FIFA Twitter page gave this message. We're aware of a potential issue affecting the registration page for the EA Sports FIFA 20 Global Series that went live earlier today. We take these matters seriously, and we immediately took down the page while we investigate the matter. We'll share updates as soon as possible. Now, that was as of October the 3rd. They did give an update. EA confirmed that Engadget that it shut down the process about 30 minutes after the signups. The company said it found the cause of the issue and it fixed it, promising that players won't see it again. They said that 1,600 players were affected and that it's taking steps to contact them and help protect their accounts. The plan is for registration to reopen in the coming days. So sooner than later, they will have that be reopened and have it available so that others can actually register for the world play or for group play in FIFA 20 Global Series. This last story that I found was a quick story that I caught right before I actually got in here to get the recording going. Bose is one of the top audio companies in the world. I'm not going to say in America. I'd say in the world, in my opinion. If I had to kind of put that conversation in place, Bose, JBL, Beats, and Audio Technica are all in that conversation. There are some others. There's some other big names that make great quality headphones, earbuds, speakers, etc. But those are the three that I've kind of seen be consistent across the board. And also the other factor of it is looking at like the price and the cost efficiency. Bose made a pair of earbuds called Sleep Buds, and they were the solution or the plan Yes, Panasonic is good also. And I'm wearing the shirt, oddly enough, Skull Candy. I think Skull Candy doesn't get their credit either. Like Skull Candy kind of fell to the wayside a little bit, but they're still in that conversation. But yes, Panasonic definitely. But Bose did have some earbuds out called Sleep Buds that they have discontinued. The pair of earbuds cost you $250. They were meant to be worn during sleep, and they are beneficial in drowning out disturbances and other unwanted noise. And I'm like adding noise to the podcast, so if y'all heard that, my bad. Like kicking the stand, not helping the show at all. It was to help drown out disturbances and other unwanted noise. Returns of the product will be accepted until December 31st, and customers are being promised a full refund. Bose has posted a notice about the Sleep Buds where the company recounts their development, Indiegogo campaign, and commercial release. We knew we were attempting to do something that had never been done before, but there was no doubt in our minds it would be worth it. Because we wanted to help you. And for many of you, we have. You told us that Sleep Buds have allowed you to get your first good night's rest in years, and that you can't imagine ending your day without them. They did confirm that a lot of users did have issues saying, we've heard you, we've read your posts, we've documented your calls, we've torn down return products you sent us and replaced them with new ones, sometimes more than once. We've also relentlessly researched the root cause with a team dedicated to nothing else. Based on that research, Bose was hopeful that it could make everything right through software and firmware, but it didn't work. Problems still continued, and Bose says that the reports of failures had spiked even higher. So the company took yet another look, and now it's blaming these Sleep Buds woes on the battery that powered them. They confirmed that the battery functions safely, but it doesn't work as consistently or predictably as it should to meet standards. Based on that, they're discontinuing one of their more unique products. And they show like the video promo of the product and just kind of an overall view of the Sleep Buds. Never knew anything. I mean, I think I saw them before, and I believe it was an article that talked about them at one point. But as far as actually buying or owning a pair, didn't have it, didn't touch it. So that's everything for my stuff that I have. Wow, what do we have? So now before we get into our Ass of the Week this week will be something else. That's all I can tell you. Music Sesh was or AirPod Escape has been a little different, and I guess I should call it the Beat Blast because people wear beats too. But anyway, Music Sesh is usually my safe zone. We got Travis Scott, his album. He brought out a new single called "Highest in the Room." If you have not listened to it, pretty good single. Haven't fully listened to her album yet, but Summer Walker's "Over It" is pretty nice. The few songs I have listened to. Robert Glasper has a new album called "Fuck Your Feelings." I'm starting on it, but I'm going to give it more of a listen later on. Have not gotten a Young M.A.'s album because I was going to talk about it from last week, even though we did have our special guest on. If you have not had a chance, please go listen to 261. It's a great show. And Chris Brown brought out an extended version. Yeah, I'm getting ready to get to that, Tim. That was actually what I was about to say. Chris Brown decided to travel a little bit more with us on the Indigo album. I got extended. We're now at let me make sure I got this right, a 2-hour and 39-minute album, which if you have that time to listen to it, definitely give it a listen. It's not a bad album. There are a lot of tracks that were not on the first album, obviously, but it's interesting because the initial Indigo album is 2 hours and 3 minutes with 32 songs, and the extended version has 42 songs, which put another 37 minutes on the album. So you run with that and do with it as you will. Trying to see who else had some albums that I was really on. Briefly listened to Doja Cat Bottom Bitch. Didn't really listen to it enough to really give feedback on it yet. Juice WRLD had a new single called Bandit. I played it, but didn't really play it. To answer that question, the reason they extended it more is not because of the physical buys. It's because of the streams. How artists get albums streamed is what gives them more revenue in some manners, as well as more play for Billboard purposes. I always like having that conversation with anyone, and just something that I always like learning, because it's something we never think of or never factor in with music. And it kind of ties into what I was mentioning before, like with MP3 versus digital. MP3 or a physical copy of a CD, it's you bought the CD, you play it as many times as you want. The artist doesn't really see that. Streams, we're in a streaming and a digital era. So it's like those artists who were doing the hip hop scene and doing the physical plays are now having to adjust to, okay, my album is coming out late October. Let me drop a couple singles to lead you up to the album when it officially releases. So that's kind of where we are. Jesse Reyes has a new single called Far Away. I actually got to see the video for that. All I'm gonna say is wow. If you have not seen it, give that a listen or a view. Sabrina Claudio has a new album. Haven't gotten to her album yet. Wale has a new single, Love and Loyalty. I'm a Wale fan, so I'm a bit of a stan, but not a big enough stan to say run out and like download or listen to the single. But I do like it, so that's just my personal take on it. And that is everything. I did have a chance to listen to part of the Baby's album. More impressed with it than I expected. I said it before and I'll stick to it again. If you're going to listen to that album, do not listen to it publicly. And yes, Wale is very underrated. It's just more so he's not as pressed to be mainstream. And even with him being with a major label like Maybach, it's not a press to him if he gets that type of attention or not. So that's just my take on it. I'm going to do something different this week before I do Ads of the Week. If there are albums or if there are artists that you find that you want me to listen to or give a critique on, and I can blend it in as a possible conversation on the podcast, send them my way. You can either send them to me through social media at at the Past BT, or you can email me pastpodcastbt@gmail.com. And that way I can kind of like see what we got and make some things work. Because I want to listen to other artists and really give like true listeners their spin while we can. Because that's the only way we're going to get the proper exposure with music in 2019. That's just my personal 2% on it. This week's Ask of the Week. Now, the story came from September, but I've held on to it, and it's been like the story that just stood out and just has stuck with me for the last few weeks because I haven't found anything else that was crazy enough to really even fit. It is an awkward story. I am not supporting anything involved with what happened in the story, but I am going to talk about what happened. An 11-year-old South Carolina boy drove 200 miles to live with a stranger he met on Snapchat. Do I even want to know? Wait, okay, hold on. Like normally I don't do this because I really am curious. Like, why are you laughing? I really want to know because I think I know why, because I did share the article with this person before I did the show, so that might be why. If that's the reason why, then put a thumbs up. But anyway, this 11-year-old drove across South Carolina. Now he didn't leave the state. He stayed in the same state to meet a stranger. This is a strange ass of the week. Okay, thanks. All right, that's what I thought. Because he was meeting another male. I'm going to read this article, and again, it's an odd ass of the week because normally I don't put stories like this as ass of the week, and it's even rougher because it's on CNN, so it's like it's a real story. But I'm just like, it's still crazy. Because even my friend asked me this, and this is the person who I'm joking and having a convo with through Instagram brought up the same question: how was an 11-year-old able to drive? The only answer I have is it depends on the height and the build of the 11-year-old, as well as if they've been around people who know how to drive. I don't know. He went to meet a stranger he knew on Snapchat. After 3 hours of driving, the young boy spotted a police officer pulled up next to his vehicle and said he was lost, according to police. The child drove from the northwest town of Simpsonville to Charleston. I'm laughing because my friend Chris Rocks put 200 miles. Like, who's driving 200 miles? An 11-year-old driving 200 miles is insane. And that is why it's ass of the week. He told the officer early Monday morning he had taken his brother's car to go to Charleston, where he wanted to live with an unknown male he met on Snapchat. But when he lost GPS signal on his father's tablet, he couldn't recover the man's address, as Snapchat messages disappear or are deleted after they are read. The child was able to give the officer his name, his father's name, and his cell phone. He was reunited with his family later in the day. Police have launched an investigation into the unknown male, which is going to be tough because they don't have the address of where the person is, unless Snapchat. And this is where, okay, tech time. Let's have at it. Tech time. Does Snapchat has that ability where even though we can't do it on our end, can they go in and get messages that were vanished from our vision? Like if I send a message to someone and they see it, but then if they go back in to look at that message again and it's gone, can Snapchat go in and say, okay, you know what? That's tech talk. You're right. We're not going to start. Nothing disappears for real. Yes. Nothing really disappears for real. Because it's almost like when you delete a tweet from Twitter, is it really gone? Screenshots say no, but realistically, it's gone. I mean, it's not gone because you can always find a way to get it pulled up. But the child was able to get off the name. Police launched an investigation. I would love tonight, right now, anybody who's watching this, who is a parent of a child, especially an 11-year-old, to sit down with your 11-year-old right now, right this moment, and have a conversation about what you're doing on social media. The dangers, the benefits, and things that as a parent we need to talk about every day. We shouldn't even be having that conversation. The first question or the first conversation needs to be, you're not getting social media. Now, I don't have kids. Let me go ahead and put that in the disclaimer. I don't have children. But I know we're in the social media era, but unless a person is in that space to be ready to use social media, there's no way in the world that you're in I'm 11 years old and I have a Snapchat account and I talk to some guy who I don't know who he is and I'm driving 200 miles to see this person and I end up not knowing where they are. The trip though, I mean, I'm just trying to think to myself, 200 miles, like that is a trip. Like I'm trying to think in my head going from Richmond to Maryland, if that's even that far. Like I drove that trip in my sleep, but not, if I was 11 doing that trip, I don't see me as a passenger, I'm falling asleep. So as a driver, I'm just trying to think, how many breaks did he take? Did he go to the bathroom? Did he put gas in the car? Like it's weird things that I'm sitting here thinking about, but those are like my random minutia thoughts. But that's the end of the article for that. It gets ass of the week only because not even just the 200-mile drive, it's the pulling having the energy. I told you they need to call CPS and do an investigation and see why a child would make that decision in the first place. That would be too close, like right. There's a lot going on at home. We can speculate that off of this article alone. Like there should be some major like social media breakdowns or like classes for the family, something. And that's just kind of what it is. Oh, I've been given my 2-minute warning. I love when they do this on Insta Live. It makes me feel limited. But of course, if the Insta Live ends, I'm still going to continue recording my physical voice. But yeah, that's all I got on that story. Like there are a lot of questions, a lot of concerns, and I'm just kind of like, there is something not right with any of this, and I can't just 2 + 2 is not, that ain't it. It's something not close to 4. But it just makes you think about like making sure you are keeping and maintaining the safety of your family and your friends in your own home. Because let's say that the person who was sending the Snapchat conversation sent the address, but also was able to get a hold of that person's address. It could have turned out way worse. So, I'm glad the child is okay. I hope they find the creep who asked him to come to his house, because he had to know he was 11. There's no way possible. I got a minute on the live, but I'm gonna do the pass the message. So if you miss clips of it, then it'll be in the actual recording. Today's pass the message that I have is, don't give up on yourself when you feel like everything is at a loss. We all hit that point when everything seems like it's through, nothing seems to be working for us, everything seems to fall apart. And we wonder to ourselves, what are we going to do next? Sometimes the answer is, I don't know. Sometimes the answer is, I don't care, and I figured it was going to end. But those who, everyone who did view or stay in the video, I appreciate it. Like, thank y'all so much. We're trying to figure out we hit that, I don't care, I'm not concerned, it's whatever life sends me is where I belong. All those things come into play. But the question then becomes, the question then becomes, how do I get past that? And the getting past it is where our lives are either made or broken. I'm not here to tell anyone how to live their life or in what manner to live their life whatsoever, because I'm still learning as I've grown and gone through life. But all I'm here to tell you is, if you have a chance to do something or improve on something or get something in your life into a better place, do it. Because genuinely speaking, tomorrow, like we hear the term, but we don't realize the term. Tomorrow is not promised. Because the more that you can get done now, the more it leads to other things that you can do on tomorrow if you make it to tomorrow. And that's just where I'm at. And that's kind of what I want to share with y'all today. Like, I've been, like I talked about school earlier, and I kind of had like a mental epiphany with school. And then I'm gonna shut up, because we're now, once our mind hits an hour, we're done. I had a mental epiphany, and that was when our routine is new, how do we deal with the newness? Day one of class was like, oh my God, so much going on. I'm trying to sit here and keep up with all these sidebar conversations, but also still trying to get information. The following day that I went to that class, I was getting the information, but I was also more focused on just doing what I needed to do. And I saw people doing it, and I saw that our teacher wasn't tripping. So I got into my Lofi bag, AirPods, earbuds. Brief temporary disconnections go a long way. And we sometimes don't understand the extent of it until we really are put in a position to do it. And that was what I needed. During orientation of going to school, I was given a message, and I'm sharing this message with everyone who is in school and everyone who thinks about school. The purpose of you going to school is to make more money. You can say it's for education, you can say it's for other purposes, but depending on the field and depending on your true passion, you're trying to make more money. I'm not going, it's not me like disagreeing and saying that it's not about the factor of what you love, but you got to be getting something out of it personally. In IT, money is the motive, plain and simple. Each class that I've attended, I'm just thinking to myself, this is more money in my pocket. Yes, I'm coming out of pocket paying for school, but it's more money in my pocket and more opportunities are leading to greater and bigger and better things. And if you don't see that with what you're doing in your life now, it's time to figure out where you want to go with your future. And that's what I'm gonna leave y'all with today. It's find your destiny, find your future. Don't give up on yourself. It's probably totally different from what I said as the initial passing message, but I still want you to know what your worth is, and don't sell yourself short. So that's what I got. If I don't say this enough, anyone that's been listening, anyone that's taken time to listen to the show, anyone that's given me any feedback, all of it's appreciated. I don't know how or what way I would have gotten this far, but I love what I'm doing, and I know there's more in store. So that's the best thing I have to say. And with that being said, we're going to go ahead and close out here. Until next time, next week, we should be a little bit deeper into football. Still will be some more preseason action. Might be a slow sports week, so I'm going to probably beef it up with some tech, and we'll see how things develop. And as always, this is The Past signing out, and I'm your host, BT. Y'all have a good one.
Another episode is in the books. Thanks to everyone for tuning in. As I always share, if you'd like to get into podcasting, you can check out Spreaker.com. And if you're looking to invest in a microphone, or if you're looking to genuinely start with recording, I use the Blue Yeti microphone, but you may prefer to do the Samson Meteor. Just know that if it's your craft and it's something that you're meant to do it and do it well. That's my main thing to tell people about 2019. Do it and be reliable. Y'all take it easy.
This episode is brought to you by the RVA Podcast Network. Find more information at rvapodcast.org.